guys? It's Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 45, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Doing excellent, man. Happy to be back talking fights with you. What's up?
What's up indeed. We've got a lot to discuss. Here's what's on tap today, folks. First, we're going to jump into a UFC Moscow recap. After that, we are going to jump into a quick preview and pick of the UFC card in Brazil this weekend. Jan Blachowicz versus Jacare. Preview and picks for that. Then we're going to quickly touch on Bellator 234, Kharitonov versus Vassell, but most of you don't care about that, and frankly, we don't really care that much about that, so we'll go fast. After that, my favorite section, listener questions and more. Fight Geek, let me start off the show with this question. This is one of those episodes where we got such a great question from the listeners that I got to start it off. This is from The Gamer, and he says, Max Holloway has a win over everyone ranked above Zabit except for Volkanovski. If Max wins at UFC 245, does that mean Zabit gets the next title shot? Does he deserve it? And if not, then who do you think should get it? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Fight Geek, take it away.
Well, I think this kind of runs into another question I saw, but I think Zabit actually needs one more after that performance, in my opinion. Wasn't an overwhelming performance, first off. Second of all, it wasn't a 5-round main event, kind of taking some of the luster away from that and leaving a few question marks. Even though I did pick Zabit to win, I think it's clear. He mentioned a staph infection, but I think it was clear he was fading in that fight. I think at this point, and I think someone else asked us, we'll get to it later, about a number one contender match between him and Yair, and I think that sounds like a great idea to determine who the next title challenger would be. I think Yair and Zabit are both one big win away, and both of those guys are right there.
Okay, so really quickly on that point, here's why I do not love Yair versus Zabit for number one contender, because that is just completely disrespecting the winner of the amazing firefight that will be the Korean Zombie versus Bryan Ortega.
But that's not disrespecting them, because Ortega has fought and lost, and the Korean Zombie has been knocked out by Yair. So Yair technically should be sitting higher than him on the hierarchy of contenders at this point. So I would say Zabit and Yair are the top two contenders at this point if you really want to do all the MMA math. But I hear what you're saying. But at this point, it's Zabit and Yair to see who fights for the title, in my opinion. I think that's a pretty clear matchup. Both are stars.
Okay. Very interesting. Now let me ask you this question, and this is the last question about so Zabit versus Calvin Kattar. We obviously, is it Kattar or Kattar?
I think it's Kattar.
I think it's Kattar too. Okay. So Calvin Kattar versus Zabit, we obviously saw what Zabit usually does, where he dominates for 2 rounds, and then he gets the living crap beaten out of him as he struggles to survive.
Settle down over there. He didn't get the living crap beaten out of him.
He got a serious beating.
He lost a 10-9 round. He didn't even get dropped. He
got close to dropped.
You know what they say about almost, right?
Right. Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
let's not act like he got beat pillar to post, Gray Maynard, Frankie Edgar style. He had a 3rd round where I think he's blaming a staph infection for his lack of cardio, if I understood the translator right. But
excuses. You know what they say about excuses?
Yes, I do. So I don't think it was that bad of a performance, especially considering how dangerous Kattar is with his offense. He's a very dangerous fighter. His boxing is great. He's not afraid to engage. He's pretty simple in his attack, which I think really helped Zabit early because he had much more variety. But yeah, he's a dangerous fighter, and I think if that went 5 rounds, we could have seen a different outcome, but it didn't. And I need to see Zabit fight a 5-rounder before I can deem him 100% ready to challenge for that title.
Okay, now I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. I know it's controversial. I've tweeted about it, but I have to ask it to you. I've done my research. This fight, this main event, is the first time in UFC history that an opponent has refused to do a 5-round fight as the main event. He had several weeks of notice, so this wasn't a 1 or 2 day thing. Anderson Silva at UFC 200 and UFC 234 both do not count because on both occasions Dana White did not ask Anderson to go 5 rounds because it was 48 hours or less. At UFC 234 is 24 hours. Zabit had several weeks. He refused to do 5 rounds for the first time in history, and I would go so far as to say that this fight, despite it being a win, has hurt his reputation more than helped it this weekend. Do you agree or disagree?
I would say to a certain extent with the common MMA population, yeah, his stock is probably a little down this weekend, but we view everything in a vacuum, and if he were to come back and knock out the next guy with a rolling kick or something that we see out of him, or one of these elbows that he throws from unorthodox positions, he could be the flavor of the week again very easily.
But how often does he get those stops in the UFC? You know, I feel like he's.
We've seen him with. I think he got one of the Suliev stretches where he got Brandon Davis in a highlight reel submission. He had one of arguably the fight of the years versus Kyle Bochniak. This fight was very entertaining for the first 2 rounds, I felt like, and then it was even entertaining watching him hang on. So I think you're being a little hard on Zabit. I think his expectations and his potential had everybody kind of seeing stars early, and they've been a little underwhelmed of late, but I don't think his star has taken that big of a hit. He's still 18-1, 6-0 in the UFC, tall, lanky, great wrestling, and very unpredictable striking. So
I think he's a very unique and exciting style. But let me just be really clear here, and we're going to move on after this. But I really clearly want to say, in a 5-round main event against a healthy Korean Zombie or a healthy Bryan Ortega, there is 0 chance Zabit wins that fight. It's not happening.
Well,
do you
hopefully
disagree?
One day we'll find out. I mean,
do you disagree?
At this point, I think all signs point to him having big problems in the 4th and 5th, but I don't want to go out and say any concrete statements because I do think he's talented enough to beat those guys. I think he would give those guys problems. His gas tank is a huge question mark, and it is for a lot of guys until they have the opportunity to prove it. This time, if the UFC let him go on 3 rounds, he must have had a doctor's note or some kind of paperwork, explaining his health ailments or whatever it might have been. I don't think they were just doing him a favor. I'm sure he fought for the opportunity to only be 3 rounds based on the staph infection or whatever. So I guess you take what you can get from your employer in that situation.
Yeah, I just don't know how well a doctor's note's going to hold up in an octagon against Max Holloway in a 5-round championship fight. He can show Max the doctor's note and cry about it all he wants, but I'm not sure Max will oblige.
Well, no, obviously if he fights Max, that will be a mandatory 5-round fight, which he will be expecting. This was somewhat of a short notice main event, first of all. It was an opponent change, I believe, right?
Also, but
and the staph infection. So there was some extenuating circumstances here. Let's move on.
We also know that he was offered that main event in Mexico City and turned it down.
But we also know if he knocks out Yair or his next opponent, you'll be his biggest fan.
He's not knocking out Yair, so.
But if he wins spectacularly, you'll deem him the next big thing. So
of course,
we're just prisoners of the moment.
Well, of course. Okay, all right, moving on. Heavyweight, the co-main, and I think, by the way, for the record, I thought the co-main should have won fight of the night. I understand it wasn't highly competitive, but it was a good fight, and I just think it should have won fight of the night because Zabit refused to do the 5 rounds that are usually expected of a professional main event
That's interesting
fighter.
to me that you think that is the fight of the night, huh?
Well, or you could do Danny Roberts versus Imadaev.
100% Danny Roberts.
Okay, all right, well, we'll get to that. But hold on. So Alexander Volkov defeats Greg Hardy via unanimous decision, 30-27.
Almost exactly the way I said he would, except he didn't get the finish.
I'm going to say something very controversial here, Fight Geek, and I'm ready for the repercussions, okay? I think that Greg Hardy's stock among diehard MMA fans went up higher than Zabit's in Greg's failure, his stock
You're
increased
talking
more than
about
Zabit's win.
relatively.
I mean, he lost and looked better than Zabit did in a victory.
Well, I mean, I don't think Hardy's going to be having a big fan contingency anytime soon, but I think it's safe to say that if you get in there versus a 37-fight former heavyweight champion who's a very technical and smart striker, you break your arm in the first round. Arguably, I haven't followed up on that. Did we ever find out if that arm or his hand was broken?
I know
he wasn't
yes.
throwing it. But one thing
Yeah.
we know, and we're in the business of talking fights, and Greg Hardy has a checkered past, so, you never want to seem like you're patting a guy on the back that has a checkered past, but when we're just breaking down the fights, it takes a huge cojones and a bunch of toughness to do what he did.
I thought he fought well. I thought he looked great, honestly.
Well, considering he was injured and not being able to use his right hand, I mean, he's limited, but you saw the quickness in his hips. You saw the way he was able to get his opportunities with that big winging left. He landed. The power.
Yep,
yeah.
He was landing.
So I would say he arguably had more success in round 1 and 2 than Derek Lewis did versus Volkov. So I think it's very, very promising outlook for Greg Hardy, especially in his 6th fight or whatever it is, to be able to go to the distance with Volkov. Now, granted, Volkov at this point in his career is more of a technical point fighter, in my opinion. He's very content to just chip away at your legs, chip away at your body. His dexterity in his legs, I mean, he can get those legs up high for the high kicks. So he's very dangerous. I think Hardy showed a chin. I think he showed some decent cardio getting beat up. He took a lot of body shots, never keeled over, never really gave into it. So it was an eye-opening fight for me. I do think Greg Hardy showed quite a bit, even though he was outmanned by a far superior fighter.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I was honestly, I truly was extremely impressed.
And I won't lie, I think that was the most anticipated fight on the card this weekend.
Well, of course, absolutely. I mean, Zabit isn't exactly the most charismatic guy, so.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but anyways, I completely agree with you. I will say this, look, Greg Hardy is still a bad person. He'll always be, to some extent, a part of his past. That's just how life goes. You live with the consequences of your decisions. That's what life is. But I would be a liar, Fight Geek, if I didn't say that I gained a tremendous amount of respect for Greg Hardy in that fight.
Yeah, and like I always say, we're not the moral police here. We're fight fans.
Yep.
We break down fights, so I don't like to break down a lot of what goes outside the ring. What I know inside the ring is it's pretty impressive for only being 6 fights into your career. He showed a little bit that there's, he's improving quite a bit each fight.
Oh my gosh, completely.
Especially considering the short turnaround of this fight, the way he came out, he fought the first round very good. I think he would give a lot of top 15 heavyweights problems, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's time for him versus Tai Tuivasa, 100%. What do you think of that?
Ooh, I like that one a lot. I think that would be a fun fight. 2 athletic, hard-hitting guys. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and just really quick, and then we're going to move on to the real fight of the night, Danny Roberts. But really quick, last thing I'll leave everyone with is, guys, I understand if you don't like Greg Hardy. I don't like Greg Hardy. I don't like the decisions that he's made, but the UFC's made a decision to keep him as a big factor, and he impressed, and he also, after the fight, made no excuses. We know that his hand was, I believe, broken or close to it, and I was impressed. That's the truth.
Yeah.
So,
and the fact of the matter is there's people with similar pasts that we exalt and cheer on, when they fight.
Conor's been accused of multiple rapes this year alone.
Well, you said it. I'm just saying that you can't pick and choose what to be outraged by, That's why I just watch the fights.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move on to the real fight of the night. Danny Roberts defeating Zalim Imadaev or Imadav?
I think it's Imadaev.
Imadaev. Okay, so I got it wrong with both tries. Via KO punches with 6 seconds left in the second round. 4 minutes and 54.
This was one of the most beautiful counter tight left hooks. I think it was a left hook.
So cool. Cool.
It was such on the button. And the way that Imadaev felt, I was so happy that the ref immediately called it off because he got hit with everything Roberts had coming from his feet and his hips all the way up. That was the perfect punch.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. I couldn't have been more impressed with Danny Roberts.
I mean, that was
It,
a fun back and forth fight up to that point as well. So that's kind of why I was leaning. That's probably knockout of the night, if not fight of the night.
oh, definitely, and you know, by the way, he was coming off of two losses to Michel Pereira and Claudio Silva, so he really needed this one.
Yeah, being third on the bill is a big spot for him. So that was a big win for Danny Roberts.
Absolutely. Do you have a opponent in mind for who might be next for Danny Roberts?
Um, Gosh, it just sounds cruel, but someone like a James Vick at 170?
What about the winner of
No, not James Vick. I take it back.
who's Mike Perry fighting?
Mike Perry's fighting Jeff Neal, even though he keeps calling him Geoff.
What about the winner of that?
I think both of those guys be a little too high for Danny Roberts, and also Mike Perry almost killed Danny Roberts in a knockout a few years ago. I doubt that's one Mike wants back.
That is true. Okay, all right. So moving along on the old UFC Moscow fight card. I have to touch quickly on this. Anthony Rocco Martin defeating Ramazan Imiev via unanimous decision.
This was a loose fight of the night contender. Also, I thought this was a fun fight. Rocco Martin, one thing, his takedown defense, his confidence, and his cardio. That was the best version of him we'd seen in a long time. Also chewed up that front leg on Imiev. Unbelievable performance.
Yep, absolutely agree. I became an even bigger fan in his post-fight speech when he revealed that he had learned very recently that his mother had stage 4 breast cancer. All I can say without getting too personal is that that certainly hit close to home for me. And I am now a Anthony Rocco Martin fan for life. And I can't even. I truly. I mean, I don't even know what he was going through. I can't pretend I did. But the mental toughness that it would take to stay focused, not only during the fight but in the fight lead up, is beyond words. And that's the true winners. Those are the real champions. Are the people that find ways through that. And it was very inspiring.
100%, and I think hearing that after the fight, it kind of put some sense to the way he was fighting. He was fighting like a madman. He was fighting like he had nothing to lose. He was fighting like he was invincible. He was fighting like people he cared about are fighting bigger battles than him. And I think that really showed through once you heard his story after the fact. So unbelievable performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fan now for life of Anthony Rocco Martin.
Same.
Okay, and then moving on. Really, there were a few decent prelims, absolutely, a few submissions, but I just wanted to talk on, I'm a big Jessica Rose Clark fan. She lost a unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board to Pannie Kinsat at bantamweight, and all I can say is that I really like Jessica Rose Clark. I think she's a cool person. I think she's a good fighter, and if there's any way that she can make 125, I think she should try, obviously, as long as it's safe. But I would like to see her at 125. She looked a little too small. She always looks too small at bantamweight. And then really quickly, David Zawada defeating Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov, Khabib's cousin, via submission triangle choke. 2 minutes and 50 seconds in the first round. Conor McGregor let off a flurry of tweets that seemed like he was very much on drugs, and then he deleted all of them about 30 minutes after that. Did you have any thoughts on Nurmagomedov's cousin losing?
No, I guess it just goes to show how special Khabib is. Everybody tries to prop up Khabib's teammates and his uncles and people who share his names and all these different things, but there's only one Khabib, and then other than that, I think it's Islam Makhachev, and the rest of them are pretty ho-hum as far as I'm concerned.
And I hate to ever tell people I told you so, but I told you so because I tweeted this right after UFC 242. Got a lot of pushback, a lot of, oh man, you're a Khabib hater, you're a Team Khabib hater. I was saying Khabib's the special one. It's not the style, it's not the team, it's Khabib. And we've seen that.
With that being said, I do believe that Islam Makhachev possesses some of elite abilities as well. So he's a very good fighter.
Yeah, and I think there's a very good chance that you're right, and I can't wait to find out. Hopefully he fights someone of note soon. Lord knows he hasn't done so yet. But agreed. So, anyways, are we ready to move along?
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving. So I think this event, this UFC Fight Night in Brazil, I believe this is UFC Parasau, and I think that's not correctly pronounced, but I'm going to go with it. And it's Jan Blachowicz versus Jacare Souza. So it's time for the preview and picks, and I want to know, in this main event, Fight Geek, it's Jan Blachowicz, 24-8 versus Ronaldo, Jacare Souza, 26-7. Who you got?
Oh, man, what a tough one to pick. What a bizarre matchup, you know?
Yeah.
The fact that it's in Brazil makes me want to lead towards Souza. But when I really got into it and watched back the Jacare versus Weidman fight, I saw that Jacare was really getting tagged up with the jab, dominated with the strikes early on in that fight. He did turn the tide and come back. But with a sharp boxer and a big, powerful guy like Jan, if Jacare starts slow and takes a lot of damage early, I expect Jan to be able to get him out of there. I don't think he'll be able to withstand 2 rounds of the type of punishment he was taking from Weidman if it's being applied by Jan. So I'm going to take Jan Blachowicz by first round TKO.
Whoa. First round TKO. So you think Jacare is so done that he can't even hang for 5 minutes?
I don't think Jacare is done at all. I think that he struggles with crisp jab and strikes early on, a la the Weidman fight, which was pretty recently. If you let Jan get loose and hit you that many times, I don't think you're going to last. Now, obviously, Jacare could close the distance and get him down, but in the most recent Jacare fights, he's wanted to be a striker and stand. So I think if he gets in a standing war with Jan Blachowicz, who's kind of in his prime right now, I think that he's going to get taken out. But I know that's a controversial decision, kind of a flyer, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those, in my opinion, that's one of those, it looks really gutsy, but it's really not that gutsy picks. Because I agree with you, I think that Jacare is getting stopped by Blachowicz. I don't think it's going to be in the first. I don't even think it's going to be in the second. I think that it's going to be in the third. So I think we're going to see a Jan Blachowicz stoppage via third round TKO. But overall, agree with just about all you said. I think that Jacare is definitely very much outclassed here. Now, moving on to the co-main, Mauricio Shogun Rua versus Paul Craig. This is a weirdly fun fight, and if I may be so bold, I would like to start it off.
Well, then you don't get to start off your boy Jared Gordon next pick, so.
Well, it's true. Hey, I gave you the main event. So
you get to go 2 in a row now. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Just go. Go. Who do you think wins?
Okay, I really like this one. Obviously, another fight that's incredibly tough to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Craig is always in some wacky action fights.
Yup.
Mauricio Shogun Rua, at this point, I really don't know how much of his chin you can trust. He's literally been through war after war after war. So with that being said, unfortunately, I'm taking Paul Craig by first round KO.
Whoa! Very disrespectful to Mr. Shogun.
It is, because it could go both ways, but, we haven't seen Shogun Rua in a while. And you think, some of the more recent fights, Anthony Smith knocked him out, so he's taking some brutal knockouts.
Yeah, Anthony Smith is really good, and no one wants to talk about that. Everyone hates it.
That's true, but Paul Craig hits really hard.
Okay, all right. So anyways, I got Shogun by split decision.
Okay, wow. All right, we disagree on one. Interesting. If Shogun were to get this win, I mean, I don't know who's left for him to fight, but we'll be rooting for Shogun. I'm always been a huge Shogun fan, but I just think he's been through one too many wars.
Yeah, you laughed at me when I said Till would beat Gastelum, so I feel okay.
I was wrong there.
All right, anyways, moving on. Charles Oliveira versus Jared Flash Gordon. I'm obviously a little biased. I do know Flash Gordon a little bit, not super well, but really like him. Definitely rooting for him very hard in this one. And I think that he is going to squeak out another split decision.
Really? You think he stays away from the Bronx for 3 rounds?
I think he finds a way, man. He's tough as nails. What do you think happens?
I think he gets submitted in round 2.
He's got great submission defense.
Do you think it's any match for Charles Oliveira's submission offense? He's arguably one of the top 5 submission artists in the UFC. He's the all-time submission by wins leader in the UFC. You're talking about, like, nobody recognizes Oliveira as this type of fighter, but he holds that record of most submissions. He's incredibly athletic. He's unbelievable on the ground. So I just don't see this being a favorable matchup for Jared Gordon. Big fan just like you, but I think the Bronx is just a little step ahead of him when it comes to technique, and I'm taking him via, we'll say, rear naked choke.
Okay, all right, very fair. Looking around the card, there's a few other names that are worth mentioning, but not really too many fights worth mentioning. But I did want to really quickly touch on Ariana Lipsky versus Veronica Machado.
What do you mean you want to touch on it?
Well, hey, what do you mean? This is a family-friendly podcast. I'm just saying I do think it's the most beautiful fight of all time in terms of I don't know. It's the two most beautiful people. I don't even
see that fight on the rundown.
That's because you're not on Topology. You're on you're on Wikipedia or something.
Well, there's a couple. I'm taking Lipsky there, but I think there's a couple other good fights that should be fun. Marcus Perez versus Wellington Turman should be a fun back and forth fight. Marcus Perez is a wild man.
Perez is gonna win that. You think Turman's gonna win?
Yeah, no, I think Perez is going to win, but it's going to be exciting. I'm giving the people the scoop on the fights not to miss.
Yeah, okay.
Sergio Moraes versus James Krause. The James Krause should be an interesting fight. James
Krause, that is quite a nice thing to say.
Well, isn't that his nickname?
I guess. Maybe. You tell me. I don't know. I've never heard it.
You're such a casual. Sergio Moraes is kind of on the downside of his career. I feel like James Krause is kind of hitting his prime, so that'll be an interesting crossroads fight, taking Krause there. Split decision.
All right, we got listener questions. We got to keep it moving. Yeah.
Hold on. Francisco Trinaldo versus Bobby Green is a good action fight, taking Trinaldo there.
Trinaldo's going to win.
Warley Alves versus Randy Brown. You got a pick there?
That's a great fight. That is a great fight.
Now, does Warley... I could be wrong, but does Warley Alves have a win over, or just Colby, not Usman? So he has a win over Colby, and he was a big prospect coming off, I think, tough Brazil. Chael was his coach. So still waiting for him to cash in on some of that potential. Yeah,
and by the way, my guess is that you're going to keep having to wait. I like Randy Brown, rude boy, to win that.
Yeah, I like Randy Brown also by decision.
Yeah.
Renan Barão, again, trying to get back on that horse. Not quite sure what he has left. Hard to pick him in a fight these days, but he's still a name-worthy fighter. I'm taking this Silva de Andrade, right?
Douglas Andrade?
Yeah, exactly. Taking him over Renan Barão, and then taking Tracy Cortez in the curtain jerker.
Yep, and Tracy Cortez and Vanessa Mello. I like Tracy as well. So agreed. Okay.
Excellent.
All right, let's quickly move on, and we're going to fly through this. Bellator 234, Kharitonov versus Vassell. I've said it a lot of times, but, I want to keep saying it. Bellator is diluting their product. They have way too many cards. They need to cut their cards in half at least, probably more like cut their cards by 75%. And if this headliner doesn't tell you that, I don't know what will. That is not a good enough headliner. It does, they've got Austin Vanderford fighting someone that isn't even named on the poster. They just say Austin Vanderford's name.
Well, that's kind of their marketing MO. They do that all the time.
Yeah, it's just, really quickly.
I think didn't they have Mir Nelson and a porn star on the last one?
I think so, and I was going to say really quickly, guys, I hate to repeat it, but, Bellator just keeps shooting themselves in the foot, and it's frustrating. It really is. It's a shame to see them doing this. Way too many cards. What a mess.
Way too many cards, but I don't think the main event is that bad. I think if the card had a few more names and a few more reasonable matchups, it would be okay, but, Linton Vassell going up to heavyweight fighting Sergey Kharitonov is an interesting fight.
Kharitonov's going to take his head off, no? I
agree. Kharitonov by knockout.
All right.
Austin Vanderford, he's kind of, they're building him up now, so now he's going to get, the tomato cans for the next few fights until he's 12-13-0, and they can pass him off as a title challenger.
I was going to say, they list him on the poster. They don't even list his opponent. That's how bad the opponent is.
His opponent in the co-main doesn't even have a picture on their site. So
oh my gosh! All right,
we'll just continue trashing Bellator.
I'm feeling dirty even talking about this card. Can we move on?
Just call out. I think Haim Ghazoli and his son Aviv Ghazoli. I think Bellator loves putting father-son on the same card. It's kind of one of their MOs, so that's something.
Yeah, which is, by the way, a very awkward and strange MO.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the biggest draw in the world, and then the one of the fights that I do find interesting is Roger Huerta versus Sidney Outlaw. Roger Huerta, obviously a much bigger name, but has really struggled recently, so this will be one to watch. It's hard to pick Roger Huerta, but I will here.
Yeah, I got him as well, but I think it's time to move on. So, guys, we're going to be right back in a second with listener questions. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 45, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite segment, folks. It's time for Listener Questions!
Back at it, buddy. You had a couple down weeks, but I think you're starting to warm up to Sundays.
Thank you. Yeah, it took a while, but I feel like I'm finally in my zone.
We hope you guys are warming up to Sunday questions and then Monday release. We know it's a little different. We appreciate all you bearing with us.
Well said. Okay, so you got a question, or should I go?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is from my boy, Ali Ra. That's at Leg Sweep MMA. He says, would you be interested in seeing an MMA Olympics of some kind where each country puts together a team to compete against other countries? And I like that question. What do you think?
If it was an actual part of the Olympics, is that what he's saying? Or
I think he's just, yes.
Olympic-like.
No, I think it's assuming it's part of the Olympics.
Yes. Would I like MMA to be an Olympic sport? 100%. Would I like them to create their own Olympics? No.
I have to agree with that. I think it would be, places like Ireland would probably have a rough go when your number 2 is James Gallaher. But, hey, you know what? Maybe Artem is the number 2 if they're being smart about it.
Well, in that case, ideally, I would think, have a 125 or 135 or 145 or 155 or etc. all the way up. You wouldn't have like a 1, 2, or 3 ranked guy out of Ireland. You would just have the top guy from each weight class per country, right?
By the way, this perfectly great question just made me think of a very bizarre side question, and I'm going to ask you it right now. You are the Ireland coach, Fight Geek. You have to decide. James Gallaher's fighting for the Olympics, and Artem Lobov is fighting. But you need a W. You can only choose one. Who are you more confident in?
Well, who's he going up with against? A Brazilian or an American or a European?
You're not allowed to know who he's going up against. I'm not answering
Well, you would
that.
know. I mean, if it's a Brazilian, you'd want James Gallaher because he's a better grappler. If it's anyone else, you'd probably want Artem because he's tough as nails and can knock people out.
I'm telling you, I think the secret boss move there is to go with Artem. Dead serious.
Well, he is the GOAT.
I mean, of course. Of course.
All right. So, yeah, I'd love to see MMA in the Olympics. I think MMA is arguably the greatest sport ever invented. So
Obviously, and it would be amazing. So, yes, we would love to see that. And it's my understanding that MMA is moving in the right direction to get recognized by the Olympic Committee by, I believe, 2024?
The only problem with that is in the past there's been a lot of, like, shady judging in Olympic boxing, so it would suck to see a lot of people getting screwed out of the gold medals and stuff like that. So,
yeah, well, let's not focus on that. But
all right.
Agreed. Okay, do you have a question or should I go?
No, I'm just gonna let you go. Go ahead.
Okay, so another question from Ali Ra. Love this one. He says, "Who wins in a fight between Phil the MMA Dude and the Fight Geek?" And what a great question, Ali. The answer is I win. And I definitely get the stoppage, and it's simple.
Oh, the stoppage. Okay.
So Justin boxes, which is cute.
Hey,
nice.
listen. First of all,
Fight Geek boxes.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
He's a boxer.
I'm gonna.
It's like Logan Paul, but worse.
There's only one answer, and I'm gonna go ahead and play a clip of the legendary Nick Diaz, and this is my thoughts on the question.
That's a stupid question, dude. Yeah, we're both different fighters. We're different weights. You know, it's my brother. I mean, like who would win? It's like, okay, what, like, or what? Like, that's stupid. You know, you can ask me that.
That's my answer.
All right, fine. Well, that was a very classy response that kind of kills all of the interest, but fine. Okay, fair.
Nick Diaz said it best, so I'll run with it.
Fine. No, honestly, Justin's a very good boxer. As I'm half decent. I don't know. I think I'd have him in BJJ, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm way more tenacious than you.
But do you have but what about your jiu-jitsu skills? I'd take it to the ground.
You know how mean I am. Come on.
You're very mean. He's very mean. So that's true.
So
that's a good point. All right. Fair enough.
Okay. All right, moving on. You
got one?
No, you're calling him out.
All right. This is from the one and only Jimison.
What's up, Jim?
Jim. He says, now after that boxing match with KSI and Logan Paul, do you think they brought new eyes to boxing, or is it just them and the internet fans that are interested in it? So, go ahead.
You know, did it bring a couple 100,000 new eyes? Probably, but I believe the majority of the people that were tuning into that are Logan Paul and KSI fans. So I don't think there was a lot of boxing or fringe fighting fans who went out of their way to investigate that card. I know I didn't. So I think the impact will be minimal. Those two people have huge followings as is, and I just feel like they brought their following into the event they were putting on. Not sure that it's going to grow the sport in any valid way. For fighters like Joe Saunders, though, they get to fight in front of a bunch of people, make a bunch of money in a packed stadium. So it's cool for him.
I was just about to go to town and call you out hardcore for that. But you
For what?
Because I was going to say you're dismissing the fact that Joe Saunders defended his belt in spectacular
But
Spectacular
are
fashion.
the type of people who follow Logan Paul and KSI going to in turn go follow Billy Joe Saunders' career now? Because they're not boxing fans to begin with. They're YouTube celebrity fans.
That's true. I mean, I can tell you this. I was watching Billy Joe Saunders on his way to losing a fight in an incredible upset. And I don't know if he felt the pressure of the moment, but something happened when that 11th round started. And he turned it up 5 notches. And he just got that guy out of there.
Well, he's a world-class guy, you know. Billy Joe Saunders is legit. Great fighter.
But he did it, and yeah, no, he is. But he deserves ultimate credit, Fight Geek, because he was just on the verge of me saying, oh, wow, he's choking, he's going to lose. And then he gets that finish. It was unbelievable.
Didn't we talk about almost earlier?
All right. He did. Well, okay, we can talk about almost, but Billy Joe, there's no almost about that stoppage. He got it.
No, I know, but he was almost out of there early, and then he comes back to gets the win. It's like you can't judge a movie when it's halfway through, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay.
But no, to answer your question, I don't think it's going to tangibly grow the sport of boxing. I think it's a very niche audience that's following around 2 celebrities.
I know that, yeah, I mean, that's like the cool answer. I will respectfully and slightly disagree.
You mean the intelligent one?
Right. Ha. Look, whether we like to admit it or not, KSI versus Logan Paul 2 brought in big numbers. That's just a fact. It is what it is. I mean, it's a fact.
Well, you know what it is. I mean, anyone who has any sense about him knew that KSI is going to win this, and I'll bet you $100 right now. I guarantee we see a trilogy between those 2 guys.
Oh, you didn't pick KSI. Get out of here.
No, I didn't pick him, but the script was for him to win. I'm sure that this was always in the cards to have a trilogy. When you're making that much money, when you have this much of a one-off, why wouldn't you milk it? I'm sure KSI was going to win that no matter what.
He deserves. I mean, look, I unfortunately saw that horrible excuse for.
But did you pay with your hard-earned money?
We'll go ahead and I plead the 5th on that one.
No, I need to know. Did you stream
in the U.S.? You're protected from self-incrimination, Fight Geek.
Okay. All right, moving on. Enough Logan. KSI
yeah, enough. I feel nauseous even talking about it.
I've got one right here from Fighting With Myself podcast. What's up,
Juice? What up?
And I love this question. He says, why are MMA fans so fickle? Personally, I don't think it's such a bad thing because I have no problem admitting that I fall into that category quite a bit. But it's interesting to me that you don't see this as much as in other sports. Now, Juice, what I'll say is I'm not positive what other sports you follow, but just following you on Twitter, I know you're not the biggest football, basketball, baseball fan. What I would say is that fans are fickle everywhere. MMA they're a little more fickle because everything is, viewed in a vacuum. You're either the best or the worst every weekend. And, they need so many narratives and people latch on to so many different narratives that I think MMA, it's a little thicker than others, but I think fans are fickle regardless of the sport.
Yeah, I do agree there that fans are fickle regardless. I think that they're more fickle in combat sports and Juice. Part of that reason is because they only fight once or twice a year, especially at that championship level, right? So when they, it's all about finding out who's the best. So when they lose and they're only fighting let's say they're fighting once a year, right? And they lose a fight, they're going to get a whole ton of crap.
Well, not only that, but in fighting, it's more personal. So you identify with people you like. Let's use Rocco Martin as an example.
Yep.
You are going to be more emotionally invested in Rocco Martin moving forward than you were in the past. Where in football, basketball, baseball, you're invested in the teams and the colors and the history and the pageantry. Where in MMA, you're invested in the humans. And I think that's part of why people feel so strongly one way or another.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point. Totally agree with that. And, I think, again, if they fought more often, Juice, I think we would see a little bit less fickleness. But once or twice a year at the top level, and, a loss is going to cost you a lot of fans.
Right. All right, I got another one queued up for Quinn.
Quinn, one of our most loyal OGs. What up?
Simple but great question. He says, who is the best boxer in the UFC? You got a name off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do. And the name is, it's pretty simple. It's called Israel Adesanya. That's the best boxer in the UFC.
Well, I'm going to go with the guy who's sponsored by Everlast and outboxed Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier.
You would.
Yeah, I mean, he's only sponsored by Everlast.
Okay, so Israel's not a good boxer? Are you effing kidding me?
No, well, he's not a traditional boxer. He's a kickboxer. Not saying Israel isn't an amazing boxer, but pocket boxing is the way that Dustin Poirier wins. That's the way he beat Justin Gaethje. That's the way he beat Eddie Alvarez. You know, that's the way he had his rise to prominence. He's not a real flashy fighter. He's a very effective power boxer.
Whitaker, who is known as an amazing striker, led that fight in aggression and led every single exchange with with that brutal kick to the shin, and he barely survived one round.
Well,
I mean,
Israel's
barely.
more of a hybrid striker, though, in my opinion. It's
He's
hard to
such
say.
a good striker. He's such a good striker. How can you not
He's
say
an amazing
him?
striker, but he's not a pure boxer. In my
He's a
opinion.
counter-striking boxing. He's a counter-striking boxing master.
He's not a boxer. He's a counter-striking kickboxer.
He's so good at the counter-strike. So good.
He's amazing, but they're asking for boxer. So to me, that means like hands up, squared up, boxing stance, boxing style, traditional hooks, uppercuts, jab, all together in unison. So if you're gonna talk about the fundamentals of boxing, it's got to be Dustin Poirier for me.
All right,
I'm sure we're missing some.
in my opinion, the best counter striker is Israel Adesanya.
Okay, I don't think that was a question, but hopefully we answered for you, Quinn. Couple names.
Okay, all right. So this is from Master D. Master D, what up? He says, does anybody care about a Jon Jones versus Dominic Reyes fight? Shouldn't Reyes have to fight an actual contender? Maybe Corey Anderson, ? And this is a great fight. Let me just start with this, Fight Geek. This is such a great question, because, look, we know that I'm not a huge fan of Jon Jones personally. We know that, Jon Jones is one of the greatest fighters of all time in terms of accomplishments. But I think for the first time in a while, Fight Geek, that Jones has a very, very serious problem with creating hype. He refuses to move up to heavyweight, and there's just no stars in light heavyweight to give him that push. And he's not moving up to heavyweight. He won't do it. So does he have a big problem here?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not clamoring to see Jon fight.
No one is. I don't think anyone is.
Would I watch him fight Reyes or would I watch him fight Anderson? Sure, I'll watch him. I'm going to watch Jan Blachowicz versus Jacare this weekend. So of course I'd watch it. But am I clamoring for Jones? Am I excited for Jones? Am I telling my friends about the next Jon Jones fight? I think at this point, he's become somewhat of an afterthought. I don't know if that is because he's been out, because he doesn't have challengers, because public perception has finally taken its toll. I'm not sure what it is, but Jon Jones feels somewhat irrelevant to me, considering he's arguably the greatest fighter in the world today.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
It is incredible. I'm not quite sure how to read it. It's kind of strange.
Jon Jones, irrelevant.
The greatest fighter no one cared about. No, I'm just kidding. Lots of people care about him.
No, but you're not just kidding. I mean, there's so much truth. It's the greatest fighter that no one cared about.
You love that headline.
No, I love it. Oh, I love it so much.
The only thing Jon has left now in his legacy is to get dethroned.
Yup. And I think that a large part of that, by the way, if Jones was sort of, half the man that he was legend, he would obviously have moved up to heavyweight by now, and that's where the big fights would be, and that's where the truly ground-shaking accomplishments would be. But we all know that Jon isn't isn't a man of risk. He's not really a real man. So he's
All
not going to
right,
do
let's
that.
keep it moving. We didn't want to give you a Hildy shout out about John.
Well, it'd be nice if he moved up to heavyweight
Do
and
you want to
grew
see
some
him fight
cojones.
Reyes was the question.
No,
You
I want to see him fight Francis Ngannou. I want to see him
No.
fight Francis Ngannou.
Tell us how you really feel. So there's Phil's thoughts. Yes, I'll watch Reyes. I'm not clamoring for it. I don't think that him or...
Why shouldn't he fight Ngannou? Tell me. Why not? Fight Ngannou. I thought it's so easy. I thought he's so one-dimensional.
Ngannou's not a champion. He's extremely dangerous, and Jones has little to gain by beating him. Obviously, it'd be a big push reputation-wise, but he's not going to gain a belt, yada, yada. So to go take that kind of challenge on just to appease Phil, the MMA dude, is probably not going to happen.
Well, we don't have to worry about what would appease me. We have to worry about what would appease the public because Lord knows he needs the public, and the public is turning fast on him.
I don't think they're turning. I think they're indifferent. So once he gets in
even
there,
worse. I'd argue that's much worse.
But again, I keep coming back to the flavor of the week, viewing it in a vacuum. If he were to come back and knock out Dominic Reyes in one round, guess who'd be the GOAT again?
If he goes and fights Ngannou, he's getting slept inside one round. So
that's a pipe dream. Keep it moving. You got another one?
I don't know. Do you? Why am I?
Yeah, I got one from Pat Tobin right here. He says, "What's the best time of day to watch UFC? Here in the standard time has the main card starting just after lunchtime on Sunday, which I enjoy. You guys usually have Saturday night, but how do you like the afternoon card slots? You have a preferred time?"
Yeah, that's a great question. So overall, I like the Saturdays and I like the Saturday evenings, but I would love to have it start a little earlier and end a little earlier. I think that in my dream scenario, I would have this end around either 6:30 or 7 p.m. Right now it ends around 9 or 10.
That's a little too early for me.
Yeah, because you're married. I'm trying to get laid. So speak for yourself, bucko.
Yeah, I like it. The East Coast, like fight night times when they kick off the main card.
He's married.
Ruining my game.
Sorry.
No, yeah, East Coast start times at 5 o'clock main card here on the West Coast. So I think that's 7 or 8 up there. Usually over by 9:30, 10. Still got plenty of time to do other stuff. So I like that late afternoon start.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like being able to go out after. Again, I would say I love when it ends around 6 or 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but that's just me. And yeah, all respect to the Europeans who are dealing with that Sunday stuff. You guys are the
All right, let's keep it moving. Okay, I got one from Kev. He asks, what are the possibilities that Aldo won't make it to the Marlon Moraes fight at UFC 245? I don't want to be negative, but it's incredibly stupid for Aldo to be cutting to 135 after struggling to make 145 his whole career. Keep up the awesome work. Hashtag AskSplitPod. Thanks for the question, Kev. Completely agree. I think it's absurd to cut to 135 after a career struggling to get to 145, especially as you age. Yeah, feels like a little desperation on Aldo's part here to get back to the top. Not sure it will end well. I do think he'll make that Marlon Moraes fight, but I don't think it will go well for him.
Yeah, no idea why Aldo thinks that's a good idea or a good choice. Again, I do think he can make the weight. I think it's going to really, really jeopardize his game, and I think Maurice is going to sleep Aldo very badly. No idea why Aldo, again, thought 35 was a good idea. If anything, he should have moved up to 55.
Agreed. Okay, I got one from Nat Niel K.
Nat Niel, what up? We haven't heard from you in a while. What up, son?
He says, we've seen a lot of newly crowned kings in MMA. Last year it was Khabib when he beat Conor spectacularly, and this year it was Jorge when he KO'd 3 high-profile fighters in a row. Who do you expect to have a great year for 2020, and how do you see it playing out? Got any answers there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to go with... Oh, man. Great question. You know what? I am going to go with Mr. Israel Adesanya. I think he's going to continue his run. I really do.
Well, I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Joseph Benavidez will beat Henry Cejudo in 2020, become the featherweight king.
Oh, you're insane. You're crazy. Really?
Or actually, I think so.
No way. No way. I think Cejudo beats Benavidez in 5 rounds fairly decisively. I think Israel Adesanya continues his reign and continues to overcome odds.
It's my pick, Phil. You can't override my pick. I'm picking Benavidez.
I know. I'm not overriding.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I'm not overriding your pick. I'm just trashing it. That's all.
You can thrash it. You just may not override it. I'm rolling with Benavidez.
It's not overridden. It is trashed. That's a trash pick.
All right. Trash pick. All right. You got anybody else? All right. Got one from Nathan. At N_Web1212. This is the Yair Zabit question for earlier. He says, hypothetically, would Zabit Yair be a number 1 contender fight? ? I say yes. Do you agree?
No, I don't. I think Ortega versus Korean Zombie is the number 1 contender, and I think it's disrespectful to say otherwise.
So disrespectful when Yair knocked out Korean Zombie.
Yeah, okay. Literally with a throw from God Hail Mary from the 0-yard line that was the most preposterous comeback in history.
Deserving of a title shot. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Jalen Ware.
Jalen Ware, what up, son? Jalen!
Is Greg Hardy underrated, or did Volkov not go for the finish and wanted to just outscore Hardy? I think it's a little bit of both. Hardy is underrated, and Volkov is somewhat of a point fighter at this point in his career.
Agreed. It's somewhat of both, but overall, Jalen, the truth is, Greg's a little underrated. Look, Greg took a lot of tough shots, especially some tough kicks to the head. I watched it all, trust me. And Greg ate it. And he took those hard shots like a man, and he looked very capable against a top contender. And I think that, it's only up from here for Greg.
All right, I got one more from Jalen. He says, after watching Jessica Rose Clark lose to Kinzad Saturday, why do you think so many female fighters fail to mix it up, fight on the same way every round, no body punches, only Amanda, Thug Rose, Joanna, Valentina mix it up constantly, #SplitPod. Yeah, I just think it's where their skill level's at. I think, I just don't think they've acquired the variety in their game to implement different things like that. So I think you see at the very highest level with the women, the elite fighters are able to do so, but not on the lower levels.
Yeah, look, I agree there. I think that one thing I will say though is that it's not true if you're thinking that that never happens with male fighters. It's only the females. I do disagree on that. I think that. A lot of the males make the same mistakes, and the females are killers. So I think this is something that's a universal problem for unranked fighters, both male and female.
Great. Okay, let's keep it moving. Meep MMA asks, with his win at UFC Moscow, is Zabit really ready for top tier fighters, especially with the potential fight with Max? I don't think it matters if he's ready or not. He's definitely going to be in the top 6 or 7. He's going to be facing elite guys. As I said earlier, I do think he presents some problems, but his gas tank is still a huge question mark.
Yeah, and I would go as far as to say this, Fikey. Everyone says that his gas tank is a question mark. What about it is a question mark? I mean, I think that if anything, he's shown that he has no gas tank. I don't know what.
Has he ever been booked for a 5-round fight?
Well, I just don't know what what's the question. What's the question? What's the question? Can he go 5? I think we've all seen he cannot go 5.
I'm saying, is he ready for top tier fighters?
Of course not. We saw that. Of course he's not ready.
You don't think Kelvin Kattar's a top tier fighter?
No. Sorry. No, I don't.
I think he could beat a lot of those guys. All right.
Well, if this was 5 rounds, Kattar would have beaten the shit out of him.
This is not true. You're getting a little loose-lipped over there. Let's keep
all right. We'll see.
All right. Connor's Vegetables has a question. He says, we already got this one, right? Max has a win over everyone ranked above.
Oh, yeah. We did. Yep.
All right. You got any more queued up in there?
Sorry, my Twitter's freezing a little bit, but go ahead. Do you have one?
I think the last one I got on here is the Kairos video question. So you want me to go ahead and roll that one?
Wait. Did we ask Kev's question? Oh,
yes.
Oh, yeah, we
just did.
Sorry. Okay.
That's when I said this question's from Kev. Remember?
Yeah, I get it. Thanks, smartass. Thanks so much. Really appreciate the sass and the disrespect.
Yeah, I'm sure the listeners enjoyed your bathroom break.
Oh, please. Okay. Okay. So let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and play the Kairos question. By the way, I don't appreciate your sass. This isn't the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, So just remember that we're not in Bel-Air.
Well, I'd be the Fresh Prince and you'd be Carlton,
Never
no
back
doubt.
down to the Warrior.
Well, I agree
my
with that.
Question is, which are your favorite? What's up, Phil and Fight Geek? Here's my question for you. We've had some terrible MMA movies, from Here Comes the Boom to Never Back Down to Never Back Down 2 to Warrior. My question is, which are your favorites and which are the absolute worst? I wanted to change it this time, away from fight stuff. Let's have something fun. All right, guys, have a great day.
All right, great question, Kairos. And for the record, Here Comes the Boom is amazing.
For the record, Warrior is amazing, and how dare he?
More. Warrior is the stupidest storyline I've ever seen.
Are you wait? Are you kidding? Because now we're gonna have to really fight. Are you joking?
So you think two brothers coming together to fight each other is the most amazing storyline, or what?
Warrior is a masterpiece. How dare you? How dare you speak ill of such a masterpiece?
You can have it all day. I think that movie's horrible.
Wow.
So, I think
all right, guys, we gonna fight for real. We gonna fight for real now.
I just lost more fans. It's okay.
Wow. Fight Geek don't like Warrior. Y'all. If you like Warrior, I hope you're gonna be rooting for me in this fight, because this is for real now. This just got real.
I'd rather watch the original Kickboxer.
Wow. Oh, wow. That is
maybe even
sacrilege.
Kickboxer 6 or whatever they landed on in the
mid-90s. Sacrilege.
All right.
That is so messed up that you said that, dude. That's messed up.
You have any more movies? I'm more of an MMA documentary guy. I could go on for days about those, but the MMA movies...
Yeah, hi. I'd like to just clarify to everyone. If you haven't seen Warrior and you're on the fence, should I see Warrior? Should I not see Warrior? Kairos and Fight Geek don't like it, but MMA dude likes it.
It's so realistic.
Go watch it now. It's amazing.
Okay, go check out the Rotten Tomatoes on it. I think it's
Don't check that. Do not check the Rotten Tomatoes.
All right. You got anything else for us this week, Phil?
I think I just kind of used up my load with the Rotten Tomatoes reference.
Oh, okay. All right. With that being said, guys. With that being said, guys, you can always find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words. The Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in a week. Peace.
Peace.